is your mental checklist when a trainer or gym comes to you and says, I want to set up that relationship? What's your mental checklist that you go through to say, okay, this may work?
I think first things first, ego's got to stop at the door. You know, when I go talk to somebody, we need to know that there should already be a professional establishment made, that we're both in our respective fields. And hopefully by the time we're already sitting down talking, we know who each other are to an extent, right?
Okay.
So that helps me say, ego, stay at the door. If somebody walks in and they think they're the only one who can answer all the questions, it's just not going to work.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to Masters in Fitness Business Podcast, where you get to stand on the shoulders of giants. And today we're going to be talking about a giant in the business-to-business referral and building relationships business to build your revenue. And I have with me my good friend, Dr. Brennan Donahue with Donahue Chiropractic. He's the guy that I trust my body to. He works out the kinks and all the shit that I go through between lifting and jiu-jitsu and sitting in front of my desk, which is probably worse than the other two, to be honest with you. So he works with me, and we've established a relationship where I send clients to him. He sends people back to me. We communicate about those clients. But I wanted to bring him in because the way he built his business was through referrals, through networking. Very little advertising, but mainly through B2B networking and referrals, right? So I want to talk to him about if a trainer or a gym comes to him and says, hey, I want to establish some kind of reciprocal relationship here, business relationship. What is his criteria? So, Doc, welcome to the show, man. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I
think it's a great topic, too, because more now than ever, everybody wants to throw money at Facebook and Instagram and the like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it goes back to all the way to the way I was raised. Sitting down, holding a conversation, shaking hands with people,
right?
Showing that you're humane and humble all at the same time are kind of two traits that I try and take in everything I sit down.
Right.
So I think it adds a weird dynamic right now with us not being able to do our networking events and be out in the public as much as we once were. But I still think there's a huge necessity for that to take place.
Yeah, I agree. And I talk about it a lot on this show, is that a lot of these marketing guys are coming out with this marketing with automation, which is very effective. But it doesn't replace human contact. Right now, people are craving human contact more than ever. You know, it's like a club. Oh, you can't get into that club. Fuck you, I'm going to get into that club, right? Yeah. What do you mean I can't hang out with people? I'm going to hang out with some people, right? So when a trainer or a gym comes to you, because I know you work with Catalyst, you work with other gyms. There was a CrossFit gym, which I'm sure you love because they probably sent you a ton of clients.
Right. Works both ways.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. They send you clients and you keep them training and vice versa. Yep. So what do you look for? What is your mental checklist when a trainer or gym comes to you and says, I want to set up that relationship? What's your mental checklist that you go through to say, okay, this may work?
I think first things first, ego's got to stop at the door. You know, when I go talk to somebody, we need to know that there should already be a professional establishment made, that we're both in our respective fields. And hopefully by the time we're already sitting down talking, we know who each other are to an extent, right?
Okay.
So that helps me say, ego, stay at the door. If somebody walks in and they think they're the only one who can answer all the questions, it's just not going to work, right? And I think that's for medical and fitness. If you meet somebody who always has the answer right away, that raises a flag on my end. Even with my patients, I'm okay saying, you know what, I don't know, but I'll be damned if I won't dig through the research to find the answer for you.
Right.
So checking the ego is kind of one of the big ones.
Okay.
Second is someone who's willing to put in the time to stay educated, right? Well-versed on just whether that's a screening or assessment or different ways to train, progressions, regressions. You know, I think for a long time people, and I'm not in the fitness industry, this is just where when I was working out, this is where I got myself trapped for a long time, is you sit down in a machine and you go from machine to machine to machine. And for a long time, that's all I knew.
Right.
Now I'll tell you that the trainers that are able to sit there and just push one person from a machine to a machine and count reps for them, and it's most likely not somebody that I want to work with. Right. I think the progressions and regressions are huge. And I think you can probably attest to this, is having that relationship where I can pick up the phone and say, hey, I saw Sally today. She's doing great here, here, and here. But I'll tell you, she needs to activate X, Y, or Z.
Right.
You know, and you can digest that and say, all right, I got a much bigger arsenal. You have a much bigger arsenal than I do on ways to activate.
Got it.
I follow a lot of, Greg Cook and FMS and SFMA. Not necessities, but I like those screens and assessments to be at least somebody that's well-versed, because I followed the 3 R's principle for a long time, and that's, we got to reset, and then reinforce, and then we retrain, right?
Right.
I feel like a chiropractor should be well-versed on the first 2 R's. I think a trainer should be really well on the second 2 R's, right? And so we kind of have this middle ground where we both talk about reinforcement. That be, hey, don't sit like a goon,
Yeah.
Don't slouch down. Don't get off your couch. We've been working from home for 8 months. Get off your couch,
Right.
That's our reinforce. I think our reset is our adjustments, our active release technique, our Grastins, a lot of hands-on manual therapy. But if that's not followed up with the retraining that a lot of my trainers are doing with the clients, we're never going to change that neuro pattern, right?
Yeah,
and
the
so they'll
movement pattern.
always want to keep coming back, and they'll say, I always have the same spot. It comes back time and time and time again. Well, that's because we don't have you retraining it. And
Right.
So I talked a lot right there in a short period of time, but that's kind of what goes through my head when I'm sitting down to talk to a trainer.
So your number one criteria is, or your motivation is, your patients, getting results with your patients. Right. So if you don't think that a trainer has the humility or the knowledge base or the technical skills that you require to get results, what you think you need to get results for your clients, then you're not going to refer to that trainer or that gym.
Potentially, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Now, if they come from a trainer, I stay in my lane, right? It's not, if they have somebody that they know, like, and trust themselves, you better believe I'm going to piece them back together and I'm going to send them back to that trainer, as long as it's safe.
Yeah.
As long as they're being safe.
Yeah.
But you hit the home run. Is we care about the patient, you care about your client, right? And then there's that, they're the centerpiece. And we're just kind of the add-ons on.
Right.
We're part of their team. I think you call it a tribe, right?
Yeah.
You have a tribe.
Right.
And it's how do we address that person, that individual the best?
Yeah. And I know from my end, as a business owner and as a trainer, my goal is to keep my clients training. And then you hit the nail on the head with, like you said, stay in your lane. And I'm big on staying in my lane and not prescribing anything that's outside of my scope of practice. And then that's where I build that team. You're part of that team. So I know if they've got something going on with their shoulders, so to say, and then I do everything that I know how to do and it's not going away, then that's where I say, hey, why don't you go see Dr. Donahue? Maybe you need some ART, maybe you need some kind of adjustment, something that is within his scope of expertise. They go to you, you treat them, and then you come back to me with recommendations that I should make in their training program, and the client benefits, but you benefit. Everybody wins in that scenario, because the client is like, oh, well, I like that he didn't try to fix something that he didn't know how to fix, and that he sent me someplace, and now I can continue to train and feel better. My pain is better. I'm getting stronger, all of those things, because they don't know about the 3 R's. They just know that either I can do it or I can't do it. It hurts or it doesn't, right? That's their bar. It's pretty low. But, on my end, I like it because then I don't lose that client. Oh, I'm going to have to miss a couple of weeks till this thing clears up, right? Oh no, you go to Dr. Donahue, and then we'll get you right back in here training by the end of the week, with his input, right? And then you win because then you get referrals, you get clients, and then you get revenue. So everybody, but it has to be that kind of relationship, right? It has to be that win-win relationship.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think there'd be nothing worse than you sending me a client, multiple clients, and I shut every single one of them down, right?
Right.
That would never have built a referral type practice.
Correct.
And so early on in our relationship, I remember saying, Jim, can we talk through clients? Can I shoot you a text? Can I call you on the phone? Because in your example there, a shoulder, I know you know how to train their core, train their glutes, train their ankles. Just because they can't move a shoulder for a week or two doesn't mean that person needs to sit at home.
Right.
Right. And because then when they do go sit at home and then they come back to you, you're back at ground zero, aren't you?
Correct.
You have to work with tight tissues, tight joints.
Right.
And you're moving. Yeah, their shoulder doesn't hurt. But that's because they didn't move anything.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that idea of keeping them in motion and modifying what exercises they can and can't do in a safe way is a great conversation piece between a sports physician and a trainer.
Yeah. And I think it just adds to your credibility, both as a chiropractor and as a studio or a trainer as well, that you've created this professional relationship. But you've also done a really good job because you started your business from scratch, from ground zero clients when you opened the door, which is fucking scary.
Yeah, well, it was. It still is, right?
Yeah. Right. But you did a lot of work on networking. You want to walk the listeners through that and how you use networking to build your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one, it's that piece of making yourself uncomfortable, right? And I think that travels through business and personal training. I think that concept is huge. But I joined a networking group, right off the bat. I didn't even have brick and mortar yet, and I was in there just talking to people. And I think it teaches you how to train. It teaches you how to explain what you're doing. Because how many times early on,
your elevator pitch.
Exactly. Elevator pitch that can be transformed and molded to who you're talking to.
Right.
Where I would use different lingo in a 30-second elevator pitch to you than I would to a realtor or a mortgage broker. Right. There's a different level of anatomy and knowledge and everything like
right.
that.
Yeah. And motivation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I went into it knowing that it wasn't all about me, right? I had so much to gain on business growth, business mindset, seeing other people that are way more successful than I am and sitting down and talking to them once a week. They were pinned in that room with me once a week, right? But it taught a lot on how do we give to others? And I think an important thing, and I struggled with this at the beginning, is I don't have a laundry list of people to refer to this person or that person, or, it can be intimidating not having the referrals for other people. Right. But as long as you're there to better yourselves together, I think you're both going to win, using your networks to, even though I might not have a laundry list of people for Jim here at Catalyst, sharing on social media, showing that I've been in this gym working out, showing that Jim has put together a plan for me and tracked my progress. I think there's so many other ways that we can build awareness for each other's businesses without always focusing on what's in it for me. Come on, I should have way more business from this person or that person.
Right.
Because if you're stuck in that mindset, walk away. It's just not going to work that way.
Yeah.
But
you got to play the long game.
You do.
Yeah.
And then it was surrounding what's in my bubble, right? Who's in my network that I can benefit the most from knowing and being introduced to. And for me, that was a lot of gym owners. That was, personal trainers, gym owners, and just other people in the health and wellness field,
Yeah.
And then it was diving deep into how many cups of coffee can I go have in a week? If you're new, and I bet your demographic on this podcast is pretty wide.
Yeah.
And so if somebody is just listening in for the first time, you have free time on your hands. You know, there's no, I know I didn't have a line around the building just waiting for me to open my doors.
Right.
And so I didn't just sit in my office and wait for that to build.
Right.
You know, I went out and have a cup of coffee. You never know where it's going to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just kind of build that Rolodex for anybody who knows what a Rolodex is. I just dated myself. Build your contact list.
That's an easier way to say it, isn't it?
Right.
Now keep it on the smartphone.
Yeah. But you said something early on in that answer that I think is really important, is that through those networking events and coffee, you learn the impact and the importance of curating your message for your audience. Because I think a lot of business owners and a lot of trainers, and I've been guilty of this too, is that we get caught in the echo chamber, right? It's easy to talk to other trainers and talk trainer speak and talk to each other as a trainer. But if I'm talking to a potential client and I'm talking to them like a trainer, I sound like Charlie Brown's teacher, right? Womp, 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 right? So I need to learn how to curate my message to address their pain points and their motivation. So then they think, okay, maybe this guy definitely resonates with me. He's saying things that I can relate to that are my pain points. Maybe he's the person to help me. So walk us through that process of learning how to curate that message for whoever you're talking to.
Oh man, that's a good question there, huh?
Yeah.
I think I learned it the hard way. And what I mean by that is I went in with an elevator pitch and I had white blank stares looking right back at me from everybody in the room. And I was like, wow, I thought I was breaking down my message to a digestible amount, but I was, I don't know what word I'm looking for. But I apparently wasn't. Right.
Yeah.
You know, I thought
what you thought you were communicating wasn't being communicated.
It was kind of a game of telephone, right?
Yeah.
You know, I passed down the line and what I thought I was presenting, it didn't come out. Mm-hmm. So one thing I started doing is preparing myself ahead of time. You know, taking the time to pull out a notebook and a pen and paper and say, who am I going to talk to today? How should I talk to this person? I mean, not to discredit that person, right? Not to talk down to anybody, but how can I clearly define my message outside of my head?
Right.
You know? Because it does get jumbled when it goes from head to mouth. And,
yes.
And then you're biting your tongue like, oh shit, that did not come out the way I wanted it to. And you're already backtracking, you know, and you're trying to step forward. So going in prepared was by far the most beneficial thing I could do.
Yeah, doing your research.
Yeah.
And also getting feedback, I think, too.
That's right.
Yeah.
A lot of feedback. And I think I'm going to follow up on the other end of this is doing a follow-up, right? How many people do you meet? And it's great to meet you. Hey, we'll connect. And then you don't connect, right? Mm-hmm. And I actually had one of my mentors was talking about this recently. It's like you meet so many people and you at the time you are genuine. And I do believe most people are genuine at these events is you do have the interest. When you don't sucker it, you know, just nice to meet you. I wish you the best, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But on the people that are could be huge connections for you, you go home, 2 days go by, you forget to follow up. What happens with that relationship?
Dead in the water.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right. And the next time, a year down the road, you see him at the next event. Oh man, there's that guy.
Then it's awkward.
Right. On his end, it could be like, there's that guy that didn't follow up with me that said he was going to follow up with me. And then you're standing there and you're like, shit.
Right.
There's Bob. And I didn't talk to
I'm the
Bob.
guy that didn't follow up with him after I said I wasn't going to follow up with him. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So having a system in place, I'm a pen and paper kind of guy. And I'm like that on a lot of things. I have a true calendar that I flip open. And when I meet somebody, I write down their name and I know that I need to reach out and get something on the books with that person.
Yeah.
Because if time goes by, I'll admit it, I'm the person at the beginning. I let too many great opportunities go to waste because I did not remember to reach out to people that I said I would follow up with.
Yeah. And you brought up two important points in that I want to emphasize. One, you said like most people, and I'll use myself as an example. I've been guilty of, okay, I know what I do and I know what my message is in my head. I repeat it to myself all day long, right? But then when I go out and I give my elevator pitch to somebody, I'm like, well, shit, that sounded stupid.
Right.
You know, or if they press me and they start asking questions, I've never had anybody challenge me on any of those. So I'm not in a real strong position to defend what I do. Right. And then both of those cause me to kind of backpedal, affect my credibility, my authenticity, my ability to get clients. Right. So I have to perfect that. I have to hone that. And what's the best way to do it is to go out there and fall on your face a couple of times. Right. You know, and then you learn how to craft and curate that message to your audience. You know, so I think that's a really valuable point. And then the other valuable point that you made was have something. Well, shoot, now I've forgotten. What were you talking about right before I said that? The last thing you said?
Following up.
Yeah, because we just put in a marketing system that has all these automations, all these drip campaigns when they come through the website and all this stuff. But none of that matters. The most important step in there is within 24 hours after they fill out a form or submit themselves as a lead, we have to call them. And let me tell you something, the booking rate between not following up and making that phone call within 24 hours is like 10 to 1.
Really?
10 to 1.
Wow.
If you follow up and make that phone call. So that, you know, attests to the power of follow-up, because nobody's going to start up a business relationship with you over an email or over a text or just because you gave them a business card. You got to develop a relationship, a rapport. They got to know, like, and trust you, believe that you have the solution to their problem. You have to present them with their problem, that you have the answer, all of those stuff. But you need that human interaction, because people do business with people. They don't do business with an entity. That's right? That's so right. That follow-up is so key, whether it's with a lead or with a business-to-business relationship. Yeah.
And two more points I want to add is kind of, I worked on like our sticky points, right? I'm sure you have them in your industry too. And in networking, for me, the two sticky points was, hey, I'm a chiropractor. Oh, really? You know, and they're already out the door. Like, that's not for me, right?
Right, yeah.
And two, on the B2B side with my trainers and gym owners is I'm a chiropractor, and then they expect that patient is in their office for life, right?
Yeah.
And I think that just comes with the field. And so knowing that, one, that introduction in a networking event to people was a sticky point, how do you hone that? You know, again, back to that skills, how do you hone that? And it was, you know what, I'm somebody who takes care of sports injuries, you know, and in the world of training, you would have to find what's your niche, you know.
Right. Yeah.
I think a lot of people are more interested to talk to a trainer than a chiropractor.
Right.
And, you know, because you have a lot more not leadway, but people are more interested, plain and simple, right?
Oh, I used to bench press 365 in high school.
That's right.
How long was high school? How long ago was high school?
Yeah. But then that other comment is knowing that you got to find people that you trust and know how to kick people back out the door and say, go get back on your horse in the gym, you know. And I think on the trainer side, that's an important thing, to find somebody in their hometown that's comfortable telling somebody, we've reached our point, you're out of pain, you're moving better, you go to gym, go work out, I'll see you when you're hurt again. You know, and that, I think, one, a lot of chiropractors are scared to do that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I'm losing business.
Right.
But one of my main mottos is do the right thing every single time.
Right.
Right. And that's how you curate these relationships, I've found, you know, is Sally got better. Could she have used a little bit more maintenance or fine tuning, or could we have helped her thoracic spine a little bit more? Maybe. But I also know that my trainers that I work with are well-versed, and they know if somebody's lacking thoracic extension, for example, they're going to put them down and do some cat camels or some type of warm-up. Roll on the foam roller on your mid-back. You know, I'm comfortable doing that with my patients because I'm working with trainers that are well-versed, stay up with their CEUs, and just keep up the interest on the client. Yeah,
the education level. Expertise level. And I think that's a very a great point, because I used to train for, I don't know, long time, a couple of decades, I trained as plastic surgeon. And she would turn patients down all the time. I'm like, are you crazy? She's like, no, like they would get a bad result. And I just tell them, I say, look, I don't think I'm the doctor, the surgeon for you, or I wouldn't recommend that surgery because I think you're not going to be happy with the results. And that was such, at the time, I was a young trainer at the time. That was such a revelation to me, but I learned so much from that because then she became one of the busiest, most well-respected plastic surgeons in the city. She still is today, you know, and it's because of that. People recognize integrity, you know, they recognize authenticity. And I think that's really, really important to play that long game. And then it also helps you overcome that sticking point because when most people, oh, you got to go to my chiropractor. Oh, what's he going to tell me to come back 3 times a week for 20 weeks, that's right. You know, and, you know, send his kids through college and all this stuff, you know, and because that's the stigma that comes along with the chiro, right? Sure. So if you can have one of your patients say, oh, I went to see this chiropractor and he saw me like 4 or 5 times, said I was good, talked to my trainer, and then my trainer had, you know, helped the adjustments and the work stick so I don't have to go back as often. So I would really recommend it. And then the person that they're referring to is like, oh, okay, this guy is outside of the box of most of the chiropractors that I've gone to. So all of a sudden, then you start to get referral business. So again, it's that long game of doing the right thing, having integrity in your work, and then the universe will reward you with that. Yeah.
And I, again, back to the newbies, because I'm 5 years into practice, and it was not easy doing that early on. But I always do the right thing every time. You will rest your head on your pillow well at night, right? And it's now way easier 5 years into practice saying that. You know, but start young, build great habits early on, and when your time comes and you start getting a little busier, it's going to be easy. You know, and I think those are. We probably have different sticky points, so it's a matter of sitting down, taking a weekend to reflect where is the disconnect between a layperson and your words, and how do you piece that together?
Yeah, and some of that is just a learning curve, right? Like if I want to build my business, then I should probably go out to other professionals in related fields and let's try to establish a relationship. But when I first get there, I may not have a lot of confidence. I may not have my elevator pitch down. I may not have my lingo, my presentation honed to where they would hear it. It's maybe honed to what I want to say and not necessarily what they need to hear or would like to hear. It's not honed to them, right? And so I may go out and I may totally bomb. I'm like, well, that was stupid. This networking thing is a bunch of bullshit. You know, it doesn't work, right? No, you just got to stick with it, man. You got to learn. You got to hone your craft, just like training. First time you train, I mean, if you saw yourself, if I saw myself the first time I trained somebody ever, if me now went back to me for day one, personal training on the job, I would just be like, oh my God, this guy is going to hurt somebody. You know, but, you know, I had to learn, you know.
And I think that's been your never-ending journey of continuing to learn and educate and hone your skill, right?
Yeah.
I think the follow-up part that I talked about earlier is important because I'm no longer a part of these networking groups, but I still follow up with a lot of the people that were in my bubble, in my network, you know, and they've now grown into long-standing business relationships that we all have each other's interests in mind.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, I know my patients love it. I bet your clients love it, saying, hey, you're looking for a trainer. You got to go to Jim. He is the guy I send everybody to. You know, you just kind of, you build your network of providers and referrals.
Right.
And it's a solid referral.
Absolutely.
You got to call this person. There's nobody else I work with.
Exactly. You know? Because you've established that relationship, that trust. Yeah, both ways. So I know there's been trainers in gyms that come to you and you're like, no thanks. So walk us through one of those scenarios. What does that look like for you?
So it gets a little tough. Let's talk about this in 2 different scenarios. Let's first talk about the patient. Being that hey, my trainer does X, Y, or Z, you know, and that becomes a very hard conversation because I don't want to, I don't like stepping on anybody's toes, right? I, again, want to stay in my lane. So I say, here are examples of what I think a good trainer should do, right? If your trainer hasn't talked to you about core breathing and all you're doing is lifting heavy, we have an issue, right?
Right.
If a trainer assumes because you're a professional cyclist that you can load yourself with heavy weight on your back, there's an issue there, right? Because we should know that most professional athletes on the small stuff, it gets a little sloppy, right? I mean,
they're great compensators,
right? Right, because they have their patterns,
right?
And so I kind of just feed that to the patient on this is what we should be looking for, right? On the other side, you know, if a trainer comes to me, I think my first things is just feeling out the philosophy. You know, what type of atmosphere is this person like? If I use the words progression or regression, do they turtle in and they're like, uh-oh, you know, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
I think it's all about diversity, right? I think we go back to diversity and having confidence without being cocky.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's kind of what I go for. And so the scenarios, I again, if a trainer comes to me and I don't think that they're fully qualified, I don't sit there and let him a new one. That's not my position.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's unfortunate that relationship just doesn't evolve because there's not the follow.
Right.
I might not have interest. And so the follow-up just doesn't happen, which doesn't curate the relationship, which doesn't the referrals don't build.
Right.
The confidence doesn't, the know, like, and trust, you know, and so you can see how it kind of spirals out of control that way.
Gotcha.
So that's a tough question, you know.
Yeah.
And
just answer it honestly, man.
Right.
I can take it.
Right. You know, and I think that's the thing is some trainers who have been doing it a long time, they go in and they do the same thing with every client.
Right.
They don't have a portfolio of diversity.
Right.
And so when I see these clients that maybe got injured, I treated them. I said, go back to trainer, you're released from care. We hit a good point. You should be able to work up from here. And if they're back in my office within 2 to 3 months with the same exact injury, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that becomes an issue of, and not necessarily for the trainer, but is the trainer, are the conversations happening?
Yeah. Are they addressing the client's needs?
Correct. In the gym and out of the gym.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if somebody's coming in multiple times with the same injury and then it happens a third or fourth time, I unfortunately say, hey, we got to get you to somebody else.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
There's a healthy relationship and that probably ends up the same with my office. Not every patient is a good relationship.
Right.
And we try and filter those out ahead of time.
Right.
You know, hey, this is not something I feel comfortable treating. I know somebody, let me get you over to them.
Yeah. And I think I don't know is always an acceptable answer.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me find out, or I think you might have more success here or with this person.
That's right.
Yeah. I think that's a perfectly legitimate and answer that shows integrity. Yeah.
As long as you're still exploring options for them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I think in the medical world, the whole, I don't know, or just try this one thing, it's riddled too much right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and then answers are unanswered.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it can't be like, I got this going on. What do you think it is? That doesn't instill confidence.
Nope.
Yeah. It's like, well, let me check it out. Let me see. It might be this, you know, but it's not, and this isn't happening. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe I think this guy, he does a lot of this type of work. Let me send you over to him. Then that's when it's okay. But I mean, you got to at least give it a try, right?
Yeah. And I nothing like somebody coming. I hear stories all the time. I went to the chiropractor. You know, I had a knee issue, I had a hip issue, and they said, "All right, lay down, snap, crackle, pop, neck, mid back, low back," and out the door they went.
Right.
That'll help your knee and your hip. And they're standing there like, "What the hell just happened?" You know,
right? Yeah.
I have an injury. Why is adjusting all the way up to my neck and help? You know, so
right.
Finding that team that has people that can listen, right?
Yeah.
I think we talked about that earlier. It's just capacity to listen. It's very important.
Yeah. And I think also on the trainer side or the gym owner side, is finding that chiropractor that aligns with your philosophy as well, you know, and I think that's really, really important. I mean, because, and the only way that you're able to do that is by having a philosophy and having that humility to say, okay, I need somebody else to do things that I know will help, but I'm not qualified to do, you know, and going out and seeking and finding people. All right. Well, thanks, Doc. Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I've known you since you started up. Yeah. Right.
Early on.
Yeah. And I respect you a lot, and I'm happy for your success. I want to continue to contribute to that. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on. Now we get to my favorite part of the show, because I think it's where we get the best answers, because we kind of peek behind the curtain of what is Dr. Donahue, and it's just 3 questions. So they're not gotcha questions. So calm down. Let your BP come down. Have a sip of your coffee. So my first question is, what has been your most successful failure? By that I mean, at the time it seemed like a devastating loss that you weren't going to be able to recover from, but you were able to take life lessons from that propel you to greater success down the road.
That is a great question, and I'll tell you, it's I know the exact scenario that you're talking about, and it was early on in practice, and it's crazy. As a chiropractor, somebody was coming in with disc-related back pain, so severe that I didn't know what to do, you know, and I didn't think I could help them. So early on, I sent them to the surgeon. You know, they did get an MRI. There was a disc bulge, and long story short, they ended up having a surgery, and it was unsuccessful. But that was a driving force for me to become way, way more educated than what school allowed me to be.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
You come out of school and you think, again, I don't think I was ever cocky, but I thought I had a good knowledge base, especially with back pain. And come to find out, early on in practice, there was that patient that walked in that I didn't know how to help. They had a failed back surgery. And so it spiraled my learning of what a disc and a nerve and a joint in the back are doing, and really how exercise can help those people.
Yeah.
How it's not required to get the MRI, not required to get the back surgery.
Yeah.
Consultation always. And so I'm glad it happened early on. It's somebody I actually knew, and so I get to hold the conversation with them of like, there was a little bit of regret in there. Yeah. But there's a huge capacity to learn from that situation.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, so you realize that coming out of school with that degree wasn't enough to operate successfully in the real world.
To my standards.
Yeah, to your standards. Yeah, I like that. All right, and then my next question is, since you've been dealing with the fitness industry, or even in your industry, what has been the biggest surprise that you did not see coming that you've had to deal with?
Ooh. Oh man, that's a good one, isn't it? What's question 3? I think one of the biggest things that I didn't see coming, but I'm glad it did happen, was the finding these systems that have helped me grow on the sports side of chiropractic, right? You know, again, you come out and you're like on an island, man. You know, you come out of school, you open a business. I don't know if you felt this way or if anybody can relate to this. And you're sitting there, you got a brick and mortar, you got an empty schedule for a day, and you're sitting there going, what the hell did I do?
Right.
You know? And then I found a group of like-minded chiropractors that I have now. We did a mastermind in Portland, Oregon, mastermind down in Florida, you know, and so I didn't know that there were other people experiencing the same exact things I was, that had gone through it, that were 10 years, 20 years in practice, and they kind of helped guide the way. And
okay.
So I didn't know that there were going to be other people out there. Again, it took me off my island, right?
Yeah.
The woe is me type setting.
Right.
And it said, oh shit, these guys are really smart. They've been through this.
Yeah.
I'm going to grab a hold and let's go for the ride.
Yeah. So mentors. So, cause I know the first week that we tried to do this podcast, you had some continuing education. What was that again?
Yeah. I did a dry needling.
Dry needling. That's it. Yeah. I do remember that. Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah. Yeah. I think mentor and peer groups are so essential because they really do kind of rescue you from the island, right? And where you don't feel so alone, and then you can bounce ideas off of them or utilize their ideas. And they're also kind of a sounding board. You can have higher level conversations with them because there's that basic base of knowledge that's already there. So you don't have to talk to them about, all the woes of opening and running your own business. They know it. So then you can take that conversation to the next level.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think this being a business podcast, I think it's important to remember, go find your coaches, find your mentors, and this is not a brag. It's I have a chiropractic coach. I have a business coach. I have a personal trainer. I have a running coach, and so and people are like, why do you have all these people? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
I don't want to write my own programming. I want to be able to focus on my business and on my patients as much as I possibly can and let other people guide my path.
Yeah, guide people that have already built the wheel.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, then that answers part of my next question and final question is, where do you go for your personal and professional development?
Yeah, I mean, nothing stops me. It's one of those things where I think right now, obviously, a lot of that happens online. Mm-hmm. But personal side of things, I like talking personal too, because they overlay this is finding the gym that treats you well, right?
Yeah.
This is this slight boost for Catalyst here, working with Jim and finding, I love my endurance training, so I have a running coach. And so I just find people in the local community rather than chasing, and I hope I don't hurt anybody's feelings with this comment, but I'm not looking for a running coach that lives 5 hours away, 10 hours away that I met on Instagram.
Right.
I want to work with people in my community that know the ins and outs of what we're going through.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. And I know you're big into the running and triathlons and everything like that. So I know that a lot of your energy and focus goes into that. And that's your passion. That's also kind of your off switch. That kind of where you find your sanity, I'm sure.
I tell people all the time, if I could carry a notepad with me out on a 4-hour run, I would.
Yeah.
It's like or a 4-hour bike ride, whatever.
Right.
It is.
Yeah, because it's kind of meditative.
It's meditative. I love my family, but it's my quiet time.
Right.
And it is where I spend my time thinking about what's next for the business.
Yeah.
Or who have I not followed up with?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Just time to think. Yeah. Kind of unplug and think. I agree. All right. Well, Doc, thanks a lot for taking the time to come on. I really appreciate it, man. And I hope you guys were able to glean something. I think you gave some valuable information to our listeners as far as the importance of B2B and networking and using that to build your business and the nuances of that, from curating your message to whoever you're talking to changing your service delivery, your marketing, all of that to do the same thing. So I think that's really important. So I appreciate it. So where can people get in touch with you, find out more information, all of that good stuff?
Absolutely. Donahue Chiropractic, STL.com. All right. We're on Facebook and Instagram, website. All our contact information is on all those platforms. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help, as people have helped me along the way.
Yeah. And I know from personal experience that you can schedule an appointment off his website. So go and do that, because I've done it many times.
Appreciate you, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.